Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. I've got to begin with an announcement today. I have just been accepted onto the MTGO Content Creators Program. So that means I'm going to have access to basically all the cards to play, and we're going to get some other cool things going on. So keep your eyes peeled for what that program will deliver in the future. But suffice to say, I'm very excited and grateful to all of you who supported me to make this sort of thing happen and get my content getting the eyeballs on it. Also, another quick announcement. As I'm recording this, the new set Outlaws of Thunder Junction has just come to Magic Online. However, I don't quite have any of the cards just yet. So we're playing this really fun deck that I saw, which is a BUG Stiflenought deck. So let's get into what this deck is. So Stiflenought refers to Phyrexian Dreadnought, which has a downside of having to sack a bunch of creatures when it comes into play. And we just stifle that trigger, so we effectively spend 2 cards to make a 12/12 trampler. Not bad. But what's even better is if we have a dress down. So we can have this dress down in play and then play our Dreadnought. And then this is a cantripping card. So it doesn't really cost us anything. So we're just getting a 1 mana 12/12 with trample, which is quite a nice place for us to be. Normally when you see these Stiflenought decks at the moment, they are in the white part of the colour pie for the Doorkeeper Thrall, because that allows you to do a similar thing to dress down, and you know it doesn't cost you anything, you get the body in play. But I played against this the other day and got beaten by it, and I saw it in the 5/0 deck dump, so I thought, let's give it a whirl. So we've got all the cantrips you'd expect, we've got the counter spells you'd expect, and you know, we've got the dress down, stifles, and dreadnought. You know, that's all expected. Then the other section we're running, some of that is expected, some of it not so much. So, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. This is obviously a thing you expect to see alongside a dress down package, stifle package, because it's another thing that can come in. But it's just a good card, right? And we get to utilize that with things like Witherbloom Command, which can fill our graveyard a little bit, and also rebuy things like our Wastelands that we're running, which we can also rebuy with Life from the Loam. Then we have our Murktide Regent as alternative threats. You know, this card is just great. Everyone plays it for a good reason. Got a couple of Bowmasters. That's what we're dipping into black for. Good cards are good, right? But then we actually have some hard removal here. So instead of trying to source the Plowshares, our opponent, and stuff like that, we are going to be like snuffing them out, Murderous Cutting, Sheoldred's Edict, that sort of jazz. And then we also have a couple of Legolas's quick reflexes to protect our Dreadnought, and it also allows us to use this as some sort of removal. So we are quite all in on Dreadnoughts, but you don't play a deck with Dreadnought if you're not trying to make Dreadnoughts, right? So that's what we're here for. Mana base wise, we've managed to fit a Hedge Maze and an Undercity Sewers. So we've got a little bit of Surveil tech, we've got a couple of Trops, we've got a couple of Seas, we've got 1 Bayou, and we have 1 basic in the form of this island. Which is interesting because maybe we'll want access to black underneath Blood Moon to cast removal in some of those matchups. But with just a blue source, we do get to cast our Dress Downs and our Stifles and our Phyrexian Dreadnoughts. So that is reasonable, I would say. Sideboard wise, we've got a Leovold. That's a pretty nice piece of tech for people trying to draw cards. It's like kind of a Narset that beats down for 3. So can't say I'm disappointed to have this one. We've got the flexible Pick Your Poison. Now our deck feels like one where Pick Your Poison should be a relatively good sideboard card, because we want this flexible slot, because that's kind of how our deck works. You know, we're cantripping, trying to find the flexible things. We don't need to answer very specific things, otherwise our whole deck falls apart, because we know we're just playing a pretty good game plan with some good cards along the way. We've got Veil of Summers to protect against discard and things like that. Got a bit of Graveyard Hate and Endurance, which is also another threat we can bring in for control matchups. Speaking of control matchups, we also have a Narset, which can dig and stop our opponent from digging. We've got some Force of Negations in Hydroblast. We need to counter certain things. A bit more Graveyard Hate in Surgical Extraction. A bit more removal in the Sheoldred's Edict. And rounding out with a Null Rod, because why not, really? And yeah, that's the deck. I'm excited to play this one. I had a lot of fun playing the Bant Stiflenought deck that I played the other day, and I'm probably going to play it again at some point. But I thought we'd try something a little bit different, because that's what the channel is all about, really. Okay, so remember to like and subscribe, and let's just jump in with some BUG Stiflenought. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, welcome to round 1. We are in Island Ponder Keep territory here. We are on the draw, so we got a little bit more information to work with. I will keep this. Alright, our opponent's begun with a Swamp and no other follow-up. Interesting. So this could be like an Entomb in our turn. So the question here is, are we pondering here before Orcish Bowmasters can come down? Or are we holding up the Stifle in case we get griefed? Very interesting. I think we want to get some more lands underneath us, so we'll cast this Ponder. Okay. I'm interested in these things. I think we're going to go Wasteland on the bottom, then the Dreadnought, then the Misty Rainforest. Okay, so they can't really take us off of Dreadnought. There is the Entomb that we suspected would be coming along. Let's set ourselves back a little bit. Let's stop this Entomb from ruining our day. Because once they have the Entomb, all of their reanimation spells will be live. I don't know if our opponent is on blue-black or straight-up black. Agadine the Undercrypt. Okay, we're probably in mono-black territory here. Orcish Bowmasters. Sure, that's fine. That does not beat our little friend in a couple of turns. Does switch off our Brainstorm. Oh, Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. We are on a very different selection of source over here. So we can have this Stifle ready to go. And then next turn we can, end of turn, dress down, dump a Dreadnought in our opponent's lap. And try and make them deal with it. We'll be drawing a Wasteland, but that's fine. It's a card that we can use for mana. It doesn't have to be a Wasteland. We can obviously Wasteland their Undercrypt. An Orcish Bowmasters. I honestly don't care about this. We'll take a little ping, but once we get a 12-12 in play, that should do a lot of work. And if our opponent's playing like Bowmasters, Entomb, Lion's Eye Diamond, I doubt they're going to be pretty heavy on any removal. Okay, so we're going to draw this Wasteland. I think we will... So if we think they've got something like an opposition agent, we're not going to want to... Like, we can play the Misty Rainforest and crack it immediately to play around opposition agent. But if our opponent has Wastelands, which seems unlikely, right? They're a Lion's Eye Diamond build and all this. So we could just play this and crack it. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Like, we can always stifle a Wasteland or whatever. So, judging by this Uro we've got in play, I think I'd quite like to get access to a tropical island so we can get this Uro down later on. We could jam the Uro instead of the Dreadnought, but I think just the big trampler is going to be fine on this board. Alright, so we're going to take a little bash for 4. That's acceptable. In the end step, we're going to drop this dress down. Dress down in response to something like an Echo of Eons is also going to be a thing that gets to save our life. Because otherwise we'll take 14 here. Which I assume is what our opponent's playing. Something akin to the Orcish Combo Masters deck that I played a long time ago on the channel, if you saw that one. And Entomb. Okay. So this feels like it's going to be an Echo of Eons. There it is. Alright, so we do need to dress down here so that we don't die. This could also draw us a Force of Will. It did not draw us a Force of Will. Okay, so we're going to get a new grip here. We can still make a Dreadnought next turn. So that's exciting. We now have a little bit of interaction in the form of this Daze. A Cabal Therapy. Sure, what would you like to name, opponents? Because they can obviously flash us back and just tear our hand apart. They name Force of Will. Swing and a miss. But they can sacrifice their Orc Army token if they want to flash us back. I'm not going to double Daze because I think setting ourselves back with all that land is not going to help us. A Mox Opal, sure. They will need a little bit more in the artifact department for that to work. Alright, there's a second artifact. One more to go, and then we've got Metalcraft over there. There it is. Alright, our opponent's got some mana. But what are they doing with it? They could tender us out if that's the thing they have access to. Okay, they're going to flash us back. And we just have to let them take our Dazes, I think, here. And just hope they can't continue to go. If they do another Echo of Eons, then we just get to draw a new grip anyway. But if they can, like, Burning Wish, crack LED, then we're dead. Oh. Echo of Eons was discarded. So we're doing this whole thing again, aren't we? Alright. This time they're going to have a little bit more mana floating. It's dressed down, absolutely saving our bacon over here. Right, we've drawn some counter magic. Yep, sure. A Dark Ritual. Okay. I think that's not our fight here. Our fight is going to be on the Beseech the Mirror, or something that we expect to see. Or another Echo. Ugh. The old Tendrils. Yeah, that's a lot of Storm. I don't think we're beating that. So let's concede that one. Okay. So, we've got some useful tools for this one. So, Force of Negation, obviously pretty nice here. Things that stop our opponent drawing with their wheels is nice. The Null Rod is pretty good here. Veil of Summers, also pretty useful. Pick a Poison and Endurance also have text. The removal, obviously we don't want Snuff Out. That's pretty bad here. Removal that kills Bowmasters, on the other hand, is pretty fine. Sheoldred's Edict does do that, but it's not the cheapest. We have to decide that's the thing we want. Clearly, Legolas' Quick Reflexes is not what we're about in this game. These dress downs looked very good. So we've got, what, 64 cards. So we need to make 4 cuts here. Do we want these Murktides, or are we better off with these things? We do also have to worry about the Urza's Saga. It kind of makes Pick Your Poison good on enchantment as an option. But there's only so many things we get to play. So this probably isn't a Life from the Loam matchup, so that can go. Witherbloom Command is okay, but I think the things we're bringing in will be cheaper and do similar effects. I think we're not going to be boarding out Daze, so we need to keep as many counter spells as we can. We'll be boarding out some amount of Ponders, but that's kind of awkward when we're trying to set things up. Maybe we're less on the Dreadnoughts here. So we're trimming a Dreadnought, and trim a Ponder, and 2 Ponders is fine, and then we got one more cut here. I think Murderous Cut could be very expensive, especially if they're going to be wheeling. So maybe we just drop the cut. And we just have the one answer here for Bowmaster. We can obviously like dress it down or Veil of Summer and get our big guy through. Alright, we'll try this. Well, this is obviously not a keep, so we'll mulligan and try and find some mana. A counter spell. I will take that. We've also got Pick Your Poison. If they play an Urza's Saga, we can just say no to that before it gets to do anything. Our opponent's very unlikely to have multiple enchantments, unless they're boarding in something like Leyline of Sanctity. We'll keep this. And I think the Murktide is probably a later thing. How much do I want the Sheoldred's Edict is the question. Like, it's very important to keep Bowmasters off the board, so I think we'll play this Misty Rainforest. We can go and get ourselves a Bayou. That gives us access to the Pick Your Poison and the Sheoldred's Edict. Right, no Urza's Saga on turn 1. A Thoughtseize. Yep. We're going to lose a card, and it's probably going to be our Force of Will. We do have Stifles, which can be pretty good against their like Tendrils trigger. Yeah, there goes the Force of Will. We were supposed to fetch at end step to get one of our Surveil lands in that situation, but we didn't. Okay, so here we go. We have a dress down for when stuff starts popping off. We don't have the black-green Surveil land. I don't believe we have Underground Mortuary in our list. So whether or not we crack this is kind of debatable, because if we wanted black and green, then we didn't really want to crack this because we couldn't get black and green from it. But obviously we immediately drew the Bayou. Beseech the Mirror. So if we dress down, it doesn't really help us here. We kind of just have to let this one go, because we could dress down to draw a card, but we can't Force of Will, and Daze isn't going to beat what they have here. So we're going to make a whole bunch of goblins here. Do we beat that? If we draw Phyrexian Dreadnought, maybe we can. Although they should be lethal through to Tendrils, right? They got, what, 4 mana here? Yeah, I don't think we've got any outs here. We just let them have this one. Got pretty crushed by the old combo there. Let's move on to round 2. Alright. We've got Island Ponder keep. I will carry on. Alright. Our opponent is mulligan to 5 cards. That strikes me as unfair things happening. I do think we still ponder here. Maybe we can find a Force of Will. The other option is to hold up the Stifle there. But I think having the ponder is probably a touch better. I want this land, but I don't really want these other cards. And if we keep these, we kind of have to draw through both of these. Alright, I'm going to go for the shuffle there. Like, if that land allowed us to cast Witherbloom Command, but it obviously doesn't because we have an island. Alright, so we're going to get some action off of our Stifles, quite likely. Alright, I guess we're passing. Yikes. Just could be a Surveil land. We're just going to say no to this. Our opponent's on reduced resources anyway, so let's just be a meanie. There is a Bloodstone Mire on the other side. They're not fetching around Stifle. Nah, now they are. Okay, sure. They thought about it, and I think that's the correct. Elegant Parlor. Chaos Defiler. Okay, this feels like Painter's Servant type jam. What do we want? Obviously we want a land. Alright, so let's just make a Dreadnought and make it good. Stifle the trigger. Good old-fashioned magic. My opponent in this round is actually a friend of mine. She interviewed me recently for a bit of content for an event I went to, actually. Engineer. Like, this Daze isn't likely to get better, is it? I think maybe we're supposed to pick up the island instead there, so that we have a green source in play for our Witherbloom Command. It didn't end up mattering. Alright. So we have a large yacht that we can protect for a turn. We just need to not die. Our opponent's Chaos Defiler is a choose, but hopefully it won't be making it into place anytime soon. Alright, what are you going to put out of your Urza Saga? Alright. Round 1 to us, but it does feel like we're looking at red-white Painter from everything I'm seeing here. So, Painter, I would like a Null Rod. That's probably a good place to start. These Hydroblasts are likely to be pretty good too. Endurance and Surgicals are pretty tasty in addition to those things. Pick Your Poison is okay. So put it to the side here. So what do I like? Removal spells. I guess we might want our other removal spell as well. Orcish Bowmasters, not actually great here. It can pick off a Goblin Engineer, but that's about... Sorry, a Goblin Welder. Legolas' Quick Reflexes, they're probably not what we want in this matchup. Force of Wills feel awkward into the deck that's likely to be packing a whole bunch of Pyroblasts. Daze, I feel, especially on the draw, we can get rid of those. I do like Loam here, because if we can Wasteland lock our opponent, we can keep her off of quite a lot if we do that. So we're currently 3 cards too much. I think trimming a couple of Force of Wills makes sense here, and maybe we only take 1 Pick Your Poison, or do we only want 1 Surgical? Yeah, Pick Your Poison is good at taking out the Sagas, though. Right, I'm going to get rid of a Ponder in favour of this Pick Your Poison. Let's go in for this. Hydroblast with a Brainstorm to try and find some other action. I think this is acceptable. Now, obviously, we're a little bit cold to Wasteland, but that's going to be a common thing, and our opponent's deck isn't a Wasteland deck, unless she's got something unusual in there that I'm not familiar with. But Blood Moon could definitely happen, but the Hydroblast is an answer to Blood Moon. Obviously, if she just dumps it into play turn 1, then we're going to be sorry, but unlikely they're going to dump into play turn 1 with this start, rather than a Soul Land. Alright, a creature that I can kill, that's good. Alright, a land, that's excellent. Put an Underground Sea, we can Hydroblast this turn select if we need to, or we can Brainstorm. We'll see what our opponent comes up with, and then work out what the best line is from there. An Urza's Saga. Not a fan of that one. We can get attacked for 1 from the Welder. We are indeed. This is not worth my Hydroblast yet. We might have better targets, like a Fable. I am going to Brainstorm in the end step. Our opponent could Pyroblast this, and I wouldn't really be sad. But this puts cards in for this. Oh, wow, a whole bunch of lands. Interesting. I think we'll bury these 2 lands. We don't really want the come into play tap land just yet. So we'll draw the Trop, and then we can cycle away from that point. We have dressed down into Dreadnought / Uro. I think Dreadnought is probably better for us, purely because our opponent has a bunch of Pyroblasts in their deck. We didn't find the answer to the Saga, but Dress Down is a pretty good answer to Saga, so I guess we could just wait on the Dress Down and use it as removal. That seems pretty reasonable. Alright, the Welder is not attacking. Shenanigans ahoy. So, I think we're just going to go and get the Hedge Maze this turn. Get a little bit of extra value. Sure, I don't think we need that land just yet. I want to keep this Dress Down so we can mess with their Saga. So we might be incentivized to blast this Welder. Okay, so we're going to see a Construct. Yep. We're going to see another Construct. And then we're going to dress them down. And they'll probably they'll probably float mana off of the Lotus Petal, and then she'll bring it back with the Welder. Alright, I think it's worth taking the 4 just so we can get the Dress Down in and get our Dreadnought ticking. So we could see a Pyroblast from our opponent. And if she does that, then we can obviously Hydroblast back. Right, we're just in. Excellent. Okay, time to make a large and in charge creature. We could make Dreadnought and Uro in 1 turn cycle. Let's try the Dreadnought. Okay, let's just put the Uro in as well. We won't get the draw of this, but it will be just a real creature. So next turn we can attack for 18, 12 of that being trample damage. We are a little bit shields down by doing this play, though. A Goblin Engineer. Okay, so this can go and get like a Ensnaring Bridge, a Chaos Defiler. Yeah, okay, they got the Welders. They can kill one of our things here. Yep. That's pretty good. We're probably going to lose the Dreadnought. Yeah, makes sense. Alright, so we're going to see maybe a Pyroblast here. Right, if we get to go to our turn, though, that's helpful. We can have a Hydroblast up then. Okay, so we can go to attacks. See how our opponent wants to block. We can always put a Dress Down in after they block here. Is she going to block? She is not. Interesting. So we can dress down in response to the welder activation. That seems pretty interesting to me. We can sort of trade blows here. I guess part of the problem is our opponent can crack this, and this is like just a sacrifice effect. So that we're using this one to put the Defiler into the graveyard. Interesting. Okay, let's get a Brainstorm going here. Try and shake something loose. Surgical is nice, for sure. We don't really need an Uro. We can just put whatever on top. Only thing I want to dress down right now, I'd like to get my card draw. Crack this for a black source. Yeah, we made a mistake by not Hydroblasting this before. Let's go to attacks. Yep, so here comes the sacrifice here. Right, let's play this dress down. So our opponent wants this Chaos Defiler back. Just going to have to do it now. Okay, so that shuts off the welder. This could also find us a Stifle. Did not find us a Stifle. But we can snuff this one out. A Pyroblast on our dress down. Interesting. Kind of okay with that one. Let's get rid of this Chaos Defiler while we can. Do we need to pay? Yes, we need to pay life here. Because we want to be able to access our Hydroblast. What a stack. Alright, Phyrexian Devourer in the graveyard. Soul Cauldron. Yeah, we know about that because of this. 3 plows. Bunch of stuff, really. So now this Pyroblast resolves. And the Snuff Out will resolve. And this Chaos Defiler trigger will resolve. And we'll lose our Uro. And then she'll get her Lotus Petal back. And then we'll make a massive Murktide. What mana do you want to keep up? Doesn't really matter, actually, does it? Okay, so Surgical, Brainstorm, Snuff Out, and I guess one of the deltas. No, we don't want to have artifacts in the graveyard for welding purposes because they can welder our things as well. And then next turn we can play the Uro. This way we get to hold up the Hydroblast. That's why we played the thing. All right, so we're going to see a Brayer's Apprentice here. So if we have to destroy target opponent if it's red. So I think we hit this Engineer first. And then we counterspell the Apprentice. And then we just, in the Uro town. Our opponent, she has got 3 cards in hand. You can see Fable the Mirror Breaker. That's a pretty good find. I don't think it beats Uro. And we do get to pick your poison it. So we have the mana to do that. Right, we'll cast this. Each opponent sacrifices an enchantment, please. And this is green mana. Then we'll buy back this Uro. So green, green, blue, blue. We'll get rid of some instants to pump our Murktide. Just some lands is fine. Not quite a lethal Murktide, but it's pretty large. So we put in. Alright, we'll put this in. Go attacks. I think we waste down this Furnace just so they have less mana. I don't want her blowing my creatures up. Or like blowing me out with something. I think we've done enough. Ancient Tomb, so that shouldn't... Yes, we got the GGs. The Ancient Tomb for the star points to take yourself up, sure. Yeah, we had a lot of stuff that lined up quite well. And we didn't run into too many or any Pyroblast. Or we had one Pyroblast, right? So we managed to dodge her Pyroblast quite nicely there. Alright, GGs, let's go to round 3. Alright, we're on the play for this round. We've got like half a Ponder. And we've got some Force of Wills and stuff. We're not really doing our plan here. But we have some interaction. We have a little bit of this. This is like half of our combo, so I guess it's kind of towards our plan. Alright, well, we'll keep this. The power of Surveil Lands compels me. Right, Undercity Sewers. Let's see what you can do for us. Another land. That's not really what I'm about right now, so that can go in the bin. Gives us a little bit of delve juice for the Murktides and Uros down the stretch. A Lion's Eye Diamond. Alright, I am going to counterspell this. I'm just trying to work out which card I pitch. I guess we're not going to have access to Stifle now, so I'm going to pitch the Stifle. But you could definitely keep the Stifle because it looks like this is the sort of deck where Stifle ends up doing some work. Oof, a second LED. Alright. And a Bauble. So we're looking at some kind of Saga Storm, would be my guess. There is the Saga. So we have a dress down which covers that nicely, if that's what our opponent is going to try and beat us with. Okay, so we can play this. We can get a Surveil land, or we can dump the Dress down if something desperate happens. Right, the Saga's ticked up, and they've got another Saga. Okay. Might be difficult to get this Dress down to do all the work it needs to. But it does feel like our opponent's on a Saga hand rather than a combo hand here. Let's go and get ourselves this Hedge Maze. A Murderous Cut. We're not really about that right now. We've got Wastelands to draw. We've obviously got our own combo stuff. I don't know if we can afford to play this Uro just yet. So I'm going to hang back with this. I'm hanging back with this Dress down. I'm going to play the Uro, get a little bit of a buffer. So I take one attack step now. Then make a guy. Our end step, make another guy. Does leave us a little bit shields down. But I think we can take the first hit. If we were doing this, we should have left up our correct source here. We see Bowmasters. Probably look like they're paying cost for a sec there. I'll put this in. Represent Veil of Summer, I guess. We could have done the other way around and represented like blue-black mana. Maybe that's a bit more interesting. Although green mana is a useful one. So we're going to see a guy out of the Saga. Then we're going to see some more guys. So we're going to take what? 4, 5, 6, like 7 probably this turn. Maybe more. But hopefully we can clean them all up with a Dress down. We just have to leverage our life total a little bit. And then we get to just jam an Uro and try and beat our opponent before they can find the combo part of their deck. So they're going to get an artifact, it's going to give them 6. And if they've got another one from hand, that's 7. That's what I'm expecting to take roughly this turn. Unless they combo us, then we just die. In a real agency, we can always pitch the Snuff Out. Right, just a Lotus Petal. So they could always just use this construct to take the amount of storm they need to build up. And try and deal damage that way. But with the resources they have in play right now, like 8 is quite a lot, isn't it? Right, I'll take 8. Maybe that's a bit stopping. We could use this Snuff Out, but we could also Brainstorm this back later on. If we had a land on top, for sure, we could play this Uro. But we can't afford to get that loose with what's happening right here. So we want to see another construct. Let's crack this so we can't get Pithing Needled. I think we're on Tropical Island here. We've got an Uro to cast soon. Alright, get your Saga going. Make another guy. It's probably worth trading a Lotus Petal for a massive Saga construct. Maybe they're on to us having the Dress down here. Okay. They've got another guy. Are they going to get a Shadow Spear? I don't really need to. They're probably just going to get another AG. Okay, Lotus Petal. Sure, there's a bauble. Alright, I'm going to spend 2 mana to delete 30 power of our opponents. Talk about a great rate. 2 mana, delete 30 power. Excellent. A Brainstorm from our opponent. If they have something else going on, we do have a second Dress down. This Brainstorm was unexpected. I had them on Mono Black Saga Storm. But there's a few Saga Storm variants kicking around here and there. I'm not really an expert on the deck though, so I don't know quite all the flavours that are going around. I'm going to see a Force of Will blue card here. We're just going to wipe their whole board. Oh, look at that. It feels good. And then we just get to untap and slam an Uro onto a more or less empty board. We could also jam this Brainstorm. Try and give us a little bit more to work with next turn. But we can do that on our turn. Because we're going to have the mana spare. Alright, they're cashing in a bunch of baubles. Yeah, it's time to rebuild and try and combo us out. I'm not going to fire off the Brainstorm. I'll do it on our turn. Because the more cards we have in hand, the better Brainstorm can be. So we get to shuffle more stuff back. 4 cards from our opponent is quite a lot though. Okay, so we're going to escape this Uro. So we want green from this. Another green, which can only come from here. And then blue, blue. That leaves up green for Veil. What does black leave up? We don't have Veil in our deck though. Our opponent doesn't know that. Black can Murderous Cut. No, I think we'll leave up the green here. Let's get rid of the things that don't interact with Murktide Regent first. Let's go get a big friend. Witherbloom Command is a pretty good one. So I can hold up this Stifle, or I could Brainstorm looking for a land. I don't think it's necessary to Brainstorm looking for a land here, because all we'll be doing is maybe slightly improving our draws. I think we're just going to hold up this Stifle, which should be good against the Storm part of our opponent's deck. And then next turn we can really go to town. Hello, Petal. Sure. Oh, they cast Repeal. An Echo of Eons, you say? That's an interesting one. Okay. I've drawn a Fresh Grip. It contains a Brainstorm, so we can go fishing for more stuff. It has a Daze. So we could Daze a whole bunch of different things here. And then if we get to untap, we get to Witherbloom Command. And there's a Saga. Yeah, that's pretty good. Vicious Bauble. That's going to turn on Metalcraft. Another Bauble. We need to counter the spell that takes them up to Tendrils mana, though. So we're looking at, what, 3 mana over there? Right, we're seeing a Bauble. And another Bauble. Let's see our Witherbloom Command. Witherbloom Command is a bit of a doozy for them. So we can take away one of their artifacts here. A Wasteland would be a great draw. I think I'm going to fire off a Brainstorm at end step. Is that right? We get to see more cards if we wait. We've got quite a lot of mana to work with. Yeah, okay, we're going to do it on our turn here. Alright, opponent, you can draw 3 cards. We could put the Bowmasters in, but I don't think those few little bits of pinging is exactly where I want to be. I'd rather Brainstorm looking for a Wasteland. Okay, we can just hit a Wasteland here. Just absolutely wreck our opponent out. Alright, so let's get rid of this. They know we have a Witherbloom Command in hand. Go to attacks. Let's draw another card. A land would be nice, but okay, let's put it into play. If they had a second land, we would have done the Witherbloom first, so we could put that in, the Wasteland in, but that's fine. We'll cast this. So I would like to mill 3 cards, and I would like to destroy target non-creature. Okay, so we'll mill ourselves, and if we destroy the Petal, we're more likely to take them off multiple things here. So this is green, and we'll use this for black. If they sack this, we still have us as a target player, so it won't fizzle a spell. Brainstorm. Now I am incentivized to Bowmasters a little bit. Okay, I'll Bowmasters. Let's just be mean. Right, so force there. We get to Daze this, pick up our Surveil land. Alright. Mono Blue Saga Storm it is. So we have a Null Rod, so let's stick that right in. Some more counter magic, that seems good. Again, we've seen like wheel type effects, so we probably want these. The Veils could be useful here. I thought our opponent was on more black, but if they're on just blue, then the Veils are a little bit less interesting. They probably have like a Tendrils kill, so we are going to really want these. We don't want the Cuts, the Snuff Outs, or the Edict here. This probably isn't a Loam matchup either. I don't mind the Witherbloom because that actually kills stuff. We can shred a couple of these Legolas' quick reflexes. I like having a bunch of counter spells in our deck. Just winning with whatever's left. Probably bin off 1 Dreadnought. And if we want any more, we can probably trim a Ponder. Pick your poison, can blow up, and there's a Saga. I think that's worth an inclusion. And I think we'll leave it at that. We're going to be more of an Uro deck in this sort of matchup. Just try and answer everything our opponent does and then win the game with what's left. And Uro is the single best card for winning the game with what's left because it just gives you more stuff. We've got a counter spell. We've got a way of hitting one of their draw engines. Yeah, it seems good to me. A basic island. Mono Blue Saga Storm. An interesting concoction. Am I about this Stifle right now? I don't think I am. I don't believe our opponent's going to mess with our lands either, so I'm just going to go straight in with a Trop here. And we're going to Ponder. We can pitch the Euro to the Force, but we might find a blue card here. Okay, we found lots of blue cards. I like a bunch of blue cards, but I do want another land is the only issue here. I guess we can Witherbloom next turn and get a land back. That's quite a likely play that we can make. If not, we can put the Ponder on top and shuffle it with it. So, okay. We just want to get this Leovold into play and then shut down all our opponent's baubles and echoes and all that jazz. Alright, we're definitely pitching this Uro to the Force of Will. That's what this Tormod's Crypt says. That's fine by me. A careful study. Okay, I'm not 100% sure what our opponent's doing. Normally, Careful Study is a card that you just want to fire off your counter spells on. But our opponent has kind of shown us a very weird mix of things, like Saga Stormy stuff, so there's bigger targets to hit, like echoes and stuff. This feels like it may be trying to put... Okay, just a couple of cantrips. Okay, I don't really know what's going on there, but I do really want to hit another land drop. We could do that with a Witherbloom Command, or we could try and do that with Ponder Brainstorm shenanigans. I think I like that. So let's Brainstorm first. We know one of the cards underneath, but we're still going to see a couple of fresh ones. Another piece of counter magic and the land that we wanted. So we can bury this Uro who doesn't do anything. And then I guess we're burying the Witherbloom Command for now. And then we can crack this. Do we need to ponder right now? I don't think we do. I guess we want to crack this around timings where our Stifle might not be live as much as we want it to. Alright, let's get this Underground Sea and hold up this Stifle. The other option there was to wait and try and get off a good like Hedge Maze or Undercity Sewers. I think that's a fine way of playing it too. An Ancient Tomb, so Daze and stuff unlikely to be great for us. But that's not what I'm about right now. Let's make everyone's favourite Emissary of Trest. A Dress Down. I guess we could draw a Dreadnought, that'd be nice. That was an interesting card to play, especially with that timing. A Dress Down of our very own. Like, they're playing Dress Downs in their Urza Saga deck. There's so many questions I have here. I think we still just jam this Leovold though. So black, green, blue. We can Force of Will this through if we have to. But if our opponent untaps, there's not going to be any shenanigans. Alright, so now our opponent needs the Dress Downs. I guess they're worried about Bowmasters and stuff like that, so that's why they have the Dress Down. But it's just interesting timing for it. So as soon as we untap, we can just be pretty comfortable. Sure, you can have a Lotus Pearl. We've got 2 counter spells here. Another Lotus Pearl. 4 cards left in our opponent's hand. What are we going to see? The One Ring. That doesn't work in the face of our Leovold. But it does spare them a turn. I think it would be foolish not to try and counterspell this. I think it's the redundant Stifle here. Now, this could be bait, but we've already seen they've got Dress Downs. They do have answers to Leovold that let them draw a bunch of cards. And if they've got untapped shenanigans, you just don't want to get caught out by that. Alright, so we get to draw a free card here. Yes, please. Pick your poison. Like, we can delete one of our opponent's permanents if that's what we want to do. Force of Negation. Okay, I think we just attack. We just hold open Force of Negation and Force of Will with some other stuff going on. Like, we could ponder trying to find a land, but I'd rather just make sure that we can cast this Force of Negation. Because it feels like we are very far ahead. Our opponent can't draw extra cards. If they target us with anything, we draw a bunch of cards. Like, if they storm us with a bunch of stuff, we can just draw a load of cards and maybe have enough counter spells to deal with it. Their lands are hurting them as well. We're in a good spot. We could Brainstorm. Brainstorm does see 3 cards. But again, we don't need to do any of this. We can just beat down with our Leovold. I don't want to have to fight over some like Hull Breacher or some nonsense like that. We can just sit and hold in this strong position. We can now Brainstorm in our opponent's end step. Alright. Petty Theft. So we're going to get a card here first. A Dreadnought. I don't really want this to resolve, so I'm gonna... We can hard cast this Force of Negation. Which is a pretty clean answer here. And that stops the other half of the Borrower coming down at any point. Can't say I'm 100% sure of all the cards that are going to be in our opponent's deck, but it is what it is, and I like where we are. We've shut off many cards from the deck. We've seen Ponders, Brainstorms, Careful Studies, Echo of Eons, Dress Down. So a lot of those are, well, Dress Down, not so much, because it takes your abilities off of Leovold and then draws them a card. Right, opponent said GG. Alright. Good sideboard cards are good. I remember when Leovold first came out and absolutely jammed people up a whole bunch. So, nice to do that again to people. So we're now 2-1. Let's go to round 4. We have a basic island ponder. We've got a lot of protection. I think this is okay. I'd rather have a bit more, but we are kind of controlling. We're not like super fast, jam down your Dreadnought. That's the thing we can do, but it's not the be-all and end-all. We will be fetching our single basic here. Insulates us against a bunch of stuff. Maybe makes our opponent think we're playing a blue-white deck. No land. Okay, any order shuffle. We've got a Brainstorm next turn to look as well. So 1 lander, 2 cantrips is perfectly acceptable to me. Now, we could definitely like miss on everything and have a horrible time, as I've done before a couple of times on the channel. However, the odds are in our favour. I think Ponder is better. This sees 4 cards, potentially. But there is an argument for doing the Brainstorm there. Jeez. I don't think of Wasteland's where I want to be. I think we're going to get any order and shuffle. Oh, no. Okay, we missed. Our opponent knows now. So they're probably going to be more aggressive with what they do to our Brainstorm. So if they have like spell pierces or something, they'd be more inclined to fire them off on a Brainstorm knowing that we've missed lands. Undercity Sewers from our opponent. Looking possibly like Scam, but basically every blue-black deck runs Undercity Sewers now. An Underground Sea and nothing else. Interesting. Can we find the thing we need? We can. So Orcish Bowmasters is very much a real card for us to worry about. We're just going to brainstorm in response and then we can work out what we're doing. Right, they didn't have it. Okay. A Wasteland. I would like to brainstorm in response to this. If our opponent flashes in a Bowmasters, that would be perfect. Oh, absolutely, as we drew it up. Yeah, you really love to see it sometimes. This is like going back to old school, like 2011 Rug Delver mode. Alright, a Force of Will from our opponent. I'm happy to Daze this as well. So this is going to be a matchup that is a lot about trading resources. So what we're doing here is trading a whole bunch of resources. So Murderous Cut is online. We're not going to need all of these lands. I think, actually, is that true? 3 lands. We're going to be drawing one of these in a minute. I guess we want the Uro in a few turns. I guess we bury the Dress down and the Uro. And then we'll draw the Uro. And then we'll Misty Rainforest go and get a Surveil land, most likely. But we can hold up a Murderous Cut as well. And we can just work towards our Uro in a few turns, which is really good against like Scam, as long as they're not doing the super broken graveyard creatures like the Archon of Cruelties and Atraxas. Once they come into play, it's usually lights out. An Underground Sea from our opponent. A Reanimate on the Orcish Bowmasters. Is that something that annoys me enough to deal with? Like, it's certainly annoying. What am I going to pitch here? I think Daze's time has probably come and gone. Alright. He's got another one. They do. Okay, sure. But Uro is certainly a better Magic the Gathering card than Bowmasters once it's in play. And you can afford to take the pings, and by the time stuff happens, you should be alright. So let's crack this. We want the Undercity Sewers here. Let's go and get ourselves an extra card deeper. A Stifle. Is that what I want right now? I don't think it is. I can go into the graveyard. There's more for the Uro to feast upon. A Wasteland. I'm not really about that Wasteland life. We want to protect our Trop. So we're probably going to play out this island. Like, we can lose our Undercity Sewers. And that's irritating. We probably fire off a Murderous Cut in response. But we don't want to expose our Tropical Island until at least we get to do this. Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. So, do we think our opponent has a Daze, is the question. Let's try and kill this. What are we getting rid of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can get rid of 2 more. And still have an Uro here. A Brainstorm from our opponent, sure. I think we should have taken one more card out delve-wise. Just to play around Daze. Yeah, the exact thing that I said might happen. Very foolish of me. I forgot to factor in the fact that Murderous Cut itself goes into the graveyard. So that was just bad. Sloppy work. Oh, okay, our opponent's got one of the new cards. First sighting of a new card. Satora the Infiltrator. Whenever one or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield under their control, if none of them were cast or no mana was spent, then they draw a card. So if you reanimate a creature, it cantrips. If you evoke Picture Grief, it cantrips. Just a whole thing for us to deal with, really. Let's play this Wasteland. Okay, well, we have a game plan. We can dress down into Dreadnought. Or dress down into Uro. I think dress down into Dreadnought is better. And then the Uro is the follow-up. Brainstorm from our opponent. I don't think we play this dress down to try and stop our opponent's abilities. Because they could, like... I guess if they pitch cast a Grief, then maybe we're incentivized to do that so that our opponent doesn't draw a card and take a card from us. Instead of just get a 3-2. But ideally, this is the situation where they attack us for a little bit, and then we just play an end step, dress down, untap, Dreadnought. Turn after we can start doing Uro things. Sure, an Undercity Sewers from our opponent. They've got 1 card in hand. So I did mention earlier this was going to be a grindy attrition-based game about resources. And we're kind of getting to the point now where we have more cards than our opponent. If we can just leverage them, the cards from our hand, then we can get there. And Phyrexian Dreadnought is pretty good at doing that. Okay, bit of defense. I don't hate that one. A Ponder. Am I casting this Ponder? No. I think this is going to be our Uro. Our Force of Will food. Do I want to play this out? If we play this out, we expose ourselves to Wasteland on our only green source. I think that means we're not supposed to play it out. To be in front side of the Euro next turn. So I think our opponent is on blue-black scam rather than re-scaminator. I think that's where the Satoru fits in nicely. I'm going to see a hard cast Grief here. Feels like we are. So this is a 2-for-1 either way, so this is worth pitching. Because they get a body and take one of our cards, we may as well just have the 2 cards on our side. So this has Menace, so they're going to attack with it. We don't get to block, but we do get to crash for a whole bunch next turn. And we are pretty close to stabilizing here. Life from the Loam is a plan for the future, perhaps. Let's bash with our friend. Alright, just going to take it. Just get this working. Yes, this grows our opponent's thing and they ping us for 1. But we gain 3 life, so in a turn cycle that's more or less fine. And now we can start Wasteland Loaming if we want to. Our opponent's got a lot of lands to get through, so I don't think that's the right way to do it. But they need to keep back some stuff on blocks because we have 12 trampling damage coming through next turn. And they can crack us for what? 2, 4, 5? This is Murktide. So that can block 8 damage. So they can bash us for 2, 4, 5. Interesting. So you just chump block him with a Murktide. I think you attack with everything, chump block with a Murktide, hope I don't have anything. That's what I would do. We can't bring back this Uro, which is unfortunate. We don't want to play this dress down straight away either, because it will take the trample off of our Dreadnought. So we want to be able to force through the damages here. We could draw a Bowmaster, and then we could loan back. We've got fetch land. We don't have a fetch land, okay. So this is half our life total, more or less. Well, more, but you know what I mean. So we need to find something here. A Misty Rainforest. That doesn't allow us to cast the Uro. We need to find something off this dress down. So we're attacking this guy. They have to chump block here. And they'll take 4. That'll put them to 1. Then we cast dress down in the second main phase. It won't let me put less than this, unfortunately. That's the rules of the game. So then we cast this dress down in the second main phase. And we look for another Dreadnought or a Cantrip or a Bowmasters because we can go and get a Black Source off of this. A Brainstorm. Okay, so this can find us another Dreadnought. And we'll be able to block this and take 3. So we'll be exactly dead if we find a Dreadnought like that. But we could find a land and a Dreadnought. So that's fine. Find a removal spell. Or we could just find sweet nothing. Yeah, that was a close game. I think that one turn where we missed a land, that was kind of the whole game, really. So Leovold is interesting. With Bowmasters, it is a weird one because they ping us, we get a card, they ping, so they can kind of ping everything down. So maybe that's not where I want to be. Veil of Summer, though, is good. I like removal spells in this matchup. I like Pick Your Poison to deal with Murktide, feels also useful. I don't particularly like Force of Wills, and I don't think our opponent is playing a like Reanimator plan. I think they've got Reanimates in there, but they're doing more the traditional scam thing. And I'm going to sideboard as if that is the case. We do still want this Endurance, though. We'll trim a Daze. We'll trim another Daze. What would we want for the other Daze, though? Keep 1 Force of Will in. It's nice to have a Force of Will in your deck, but you just don't want to get... Or we can have this Surgical, just mess with their Bowmasters. Sure. I don't want to draw 2 Surgicals, I don't think. I don't believe our opponent is on the Reanimate, like I said. They're just on... Well, obviously they have actual Reanimate, but they're not on the full giant monster plan. They're more on the fair, original scam style decks. We have removal. We have a Wasteland. Maybe we can get a little cheese going. We have half of our combo. I think this is okay. Relying on the Brainstorm to do a little bit of work. But that's not exactly a surprise, given the power of Brainstorm. Underground Sea from our opponent into a Ponder. Sure. Just normal, fair magicking. So now we get to Brainstorm before our opponent has Orcish Bowmasters available. It's key. Now they could still grief us here. We haven't seen a grief yet, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't have one. Alright, so we found a Brainstorm. Play our land out and use this fetch that we already have in play. Murktide Regent. I'm certainly looking forward to that down the line. Double Wasteland is a lot more tempting than single Wasteland. That's it. We can Stifle Dreadnought as well. I think we're going to bury this Brainstorm. And I think it's the Murktide, then the Brainstorm, actually. Because the Murktide is a thing for later on, isn't it? We don't really have the resources to support that. So we can hold up here with a Stifle, with a Daze. You know, we've got a bunch of stuff we could do. A Wasteland from our opponent. A Grief. Interesting. We could Daze this to save our Underground Sea. Or we could crack this and see if they Stifle us. Alright, so we get Tropical Island. So we can Stifle this trigger. This does make our Phyrexian Dreadnought a lot worse. This is part of the price we paid here. Essence Flux, what does this do? Exile target creature you control, then return that card to battlefield under its owner's control. If it's a spirit, it gets bigger. Can't say I'm a fan of this. Okay. So the plan now is to Wasteland our opponent and Sheoldred's Edict our opponent. But they're probably going to take out our black source, so we can't Sheoldred's Edict them yet. Just hope our Wastelands do what they need to do. They took the Dreadnought, that's interesting. Maybe our opponent has a bunch more land. Yeah. Alright, we're going to use our life total as a resource and just cut our opponent's resources out from underneath them. And then at some point we will cast this Sheoldred's Edict to take the pressure off. Because if we put it in the graveyard, it might just get reanimated straight away. But if we can strip our opponent's lands, then that won't be an issue. They really don't have another land. That's probably why they spent a long time looking at our hand. Alright. Let's crack this. Go and get an Underground Sea. We do this on our opponent's upkeep in case they have Force of Negation. Alright. And it's out of here. So they might have a land they just don't want to play in case it gets Wastelanded. Alright, speaking of Wasteland, we have one here. We can Witherbloom Command to get ourselves another Wasteland. Or we could use it to get towards Uro mana. But we could save this and maybe kill a Bowmasters with it down the line. I don't think we're desperate just to cycle it for another card. We've got a land. So now if we fire this off, so they'll lose 2 life. Yeah, there's the only options we have. So target player mills 3, target opponent, sure. So black and green. Get this going. So if we mill over an Uro, we could go and get a fetch land. We can still get a fetch land instead of this Wasteland. And I think that's probably the better option there. Now we already have the one Wasteland. We've got 2 Dazes, so we don't need to keep our opponent completely off of lands. So we can certainly stifle a bunch of their plays. Right, a Wasteland from our opponent, sure. Pretty glad we got some more colours going. An Endurance. Okay, that's a pretty good one. If our opponent cracks us off on a green source, we'll just do it, but we're holding up Force of Will. Or at least that's what it looks like for our opponents. But if they try and reanimate, we can just Endurance. Like, we're going to Endurance anyway, our opponent's end step. We'll crack this. Don't want to get stifled ourselves. We'll go and get the Tropical Island here. What is the play our opponent is opting for this turn? A basic island. A Ponder. Sure. We're going to Endurance end step. Just get that grief out of there and all the cards that they could use to play a Murktide potentially next turn. Just get rid of those. Play Endurance, and now we're the ones who are doing the beatdown. They chose not to use the ability, so they didn't shuffle. They could have all sorts of Dazes and things right now. But we need to get some damage going on the board here. Shut off their reanimations and their Murktides. Brainstorm. Yeah, let's move some things around. I like this Uro. I like this Narset a little bit more right now. I think we'll bury the Dress down in 1 Daze. And then we'll jam this. We have Veil of Summers in our deck, so I think we're going to leave open the green mana. Let's get Narset going. Alright, so that's going to shut off our opponent's cantrips. Dress down, Daze. I don't mind having a Daze. The Snuff Out is only good against Murktide. We've kind of got that covered already. I'll take a Daze. And then we'll bash for 3. Like, our opponent has been in trouble with mana, so these Dazes are still pretty live. And we're in a situation where we're quite far ahead in land drops, so we're happy to double Daze without setting ourselves back too far. Another land from our opponent. If we minus this Narset, it does become exposed to Bowmasters. If we minus it a second time. They could just Bowmasters it proactively here, so we have to make the choice if we want to kill it or not. Yeah, so our opponent is making that exact choice for us. So if we pay 1, then let's Daze this, picking up We have to double Daze to do this, though. Right, they only know we have 1 Daze. We've still got the one floating pair around the enemy Daze. They could Force of Will this, which would obviously be annoying. But, alright. We get to keep our Narset. Stifle. Something we will. Minus this. I like quite a lot of these cards, as it turns out. I'll take this Veil of Summer. That can protect our Narset for another turn. We'll keep our black mana in hand. Let's go 1, 2, 3. Let's get Neuro in. We've got a pretty stacked graveyard. Put this one in. That does expose this black source to a Wasteland, actually. That was probably a bit foolish. But we can always stifle the Wasteland activation. And we'll be stripping more cards out of our opponent's hand. Or out of their opponent's grip. If we include their board as their grip, I suppose. Alright, enough rambling from me. Do I care about this Bowmasters? No. Where are they going to put this ping? They know we have a Veil of Summer. A Flusterstorm. Sure. We don't get to stifle it and also pay for the first copy, so... Right, we lose our Narset, but it drew us a couple of cards. And now we get to do Uro things. A Wasteland. I will stifle this because we need to have access to Uro mana here. This is a pretty good Daze target for our opponent. Didn't have it. Okay, let's put big Uro into play. Green, green, blue, blue. So we get rid of the things that we can't get back. So Dreadnoughts, Dress Down, Narset, another Dreadnought. Is that all the Dreadnoughts from our deck, I think? Yikes. No, we still have one more Dreadnought. Alright. Can we draw a land here? Put one in. If we can put in a green source, we can go and Veil of Summer our opponent's Bowmasters. They can ping our Endurance. Oh, they're going to snuff out our Endurance before we get access to Veil of Summer. It's pretty good. Our opponent's only on 4, though. Okay. 4 plays 22. We've got an Uro, they've got Bowmasters. Now, they could just keep getting friends from the Bowmasters, but we can attack, and then with the draw trigger on the stack, we can stifle, so they don't get ping. We could Veil of Summer to counter it. We basically got 3 things in our hand that counter Orcish Bowmaster pings. Black and a blue. This feels like a Sheoldred's Edict. It is. We can refire Uro as long as they don't have a Wasteland. Sure, they're going to bash for 3 here. Alright, let's just refire the Uro. So, green, green, blue, blue. Let's get rid of the things we can't get back. So that would be just the Endurance, and then probably taking some fetch lands. And I think we'll take 1 instant here, and another instant. We want to leave enough food in there for a Murktide. We also want to have some nice Life from the Loam targets too. Right, so there is the Murktide. You can ping us with your bow, boy. Next turn, we make a giant Murktide. And we back it up with Veil of Summer. And that should cause some havoc to our opponent. A Brainstorm. Good cards are good. We're a little bit behind on clock. So we're going to have to be... I think this is game 2, if I remember rightly. So we're going to have to be pretty quick with how we pass priority from here on out. A Polluted Delta. Crack and Polluted Delta. They've gone to 3. Got a couple of our own Bowmasters in the deck as well. Blue, black. It's going to be another Edict. Petty Theft. Sure. So now we get crunched for 4. But we'll make a big Murktide. Hold up some stuff. Okay, so blue. Blue. Get rid of the things that make it big. Right, we have an 8/8. We could ponder here, but that does run into Bowmaster a little bit. I think we're okay just to hold. Wait, in our end step we should we probably should have wastelanded that. Although we're playing around Daze here. If our opponent doesn't have another land, that's a bit of a spew. Blue, blue. Are they going to play their own Murktide? So if we play this Dress Down, ours will be bigger. Alright. Our Bowmasters of our very own. So now they have a 3/3 Murktide. And we have an 8/8 Murktide. So under the bus it will have to go. We're still holding this Veil of Summer the whole time. Subtlety. Interesting. This is just going to be a creature they put into play. Because of the Dress Down. What do they exile? Anything interesting information? We don't have time to look at that really. We need to be... Alright, so they have 2/3/3 they can block with here. I think we are swinging. So probably block with the subtlety and maybe have another... No, they can't run the Murktide. That will grow the first one at least. Right, so this will Wasteland them off of this. The classic Bowmasters, your Bowmasters plan. Holding up Veil and Stifle. Ping this down so no cantrips for our opponent. But we can cantrip to our heart's content in the future. Pick your poison. I will put that on top of my library, please. That is a way of killing their creature next turn. I think we've managed to get our way through this. Right, they've conceded. Okay, I like how we sideboarded here. I don't think we want these reflexes. Dazes do get better when we're on the play. But is this matchup about Dazes? I don't think it is about Dazes. We'll swap one Ponder for a Daze. Just we're on the play. Let's try that. Leovold is a really weird one against Bowmasters. Because they basically get to decide... Well, I get to decide, I suppose. I can draw cards or not draw cards. But it becomes really awkward. And I don't have enough reps with Leovold versus Bowmasters to make the correct decisions necessarily. Maybe that's just me being a coward. We got Stifle, Wasteland hand. So, yeah, sign me up, I guess. Let's be mean. Undercity Sewers, okay. That's certainly a Wastelandable target. I think we're gonna just hold up this though. So we can hide cards or Stifle or Veil of Summer. And the next turn we'll start in with the Wastelands and go from there. We've got 2 minutes left on our clock for our opponent, so we need to be aware of that. Brainstorm, be my guest. So this feels like our opponent might be scratching for lands. I don't know why, I've just got that vibe. There's an Underground Sea. So we have double Wasteland, so we're going to be using them. Haven't seen a Stifle from our opponent yet. A Swamp Cycle. I'll Stifle that. We could have got massively blown out if we had a Daze then, to be fair. But our game plan is disrupt our opponent's mana, take whatever they can get into play, mash their resources up a bunch. Not a big fan of getting hit by this grief though. But we do have a removal spell. We're probably not going to get very far with it though. We could have held up the Veil of Summer instead of going after that Troll of Khazad-dûm aggressively. But our opponent started with a tap land into Brainstorm before they made a land drop, which is, you know, what you're going to do anyway. But I thought we could maybe get them. Our hand did one thing quite effectively, and that was disrupt our opponent's mana. So I wanted to lean into that. And now, are they going to reanimate this as well? Oh, they're not. Okay, that's not so bad. Opponent's only got 2 cards in hand. Let's continue the plan. So we don't have access to this Veil of Summer now because we have this island instead of a trop. But we are trying to execute our plan, making our Dazes better. Troll of Khazad-dûm. We don't get to Stifle that because we don't have a Stifle. So we do get to go and get their basic swamp. Nope, they're going for Underground Sea. Okay. That makes sense, given the current situation though. A Ponder. I'll play this land and I will cast this Ponder. Orcish Bowmasters is excellent, as is the Euro. Which is the bigger prize? I think the Euro is the actual bigger prize here. So we're going to bury the Bayou, then the Bowmasters, and put this Euro into our hand. I don't really want to crack my Polluted Delta this turn. Right, our opponent's just got a lot of lands, so we didn't really get very far. So we're going to draw this Bowmasters, and on top of our library after that is a Bayou. So we just pass. We've got loads of spells, our opponent's got 2 cards in hand, so we're in a pretty comfortable position. Orcish Bowmasters, that's fine. We want to be the first one, the second person to play a Bowmasters. And we can do that with what we have. Right, we're going to get a trop here. I know that means we're... No, we have to get a C here, don't we? Which means we're giving up on our Veil. Means we're a little bit ways off of the Euro as well. But I want to have access to 2 islands to fight with our Dazes, potentially. Ping this guy down. If our opponent has another Bowmasters, then that's obviously a little bit miserable for us, but it doesn't look like they did. Alright, they're cracking their Delta. They're just going to reanimate their Bowmasters. They are indeed. We're not going to try and do double Dazes here. We're just going to, unfortunately, let this one go. We can kill this with a Sheoldred's Edict though. We can do that in our opponent's upkeep. If we have to Daze for some reason, we're probably bouncing our Underground Sea because that's the Wastelandable one. So if we can just find another land, if we can find a green source here, then I think we should be odds on to win this one. Murktide Regent. Right, we have to hope our opponent doesn't have a Daze in hand, because I don't think we beat the Murktide Regent unless we double Daze here. You've got one card in hand, opponent. Please don't have the thing. Don't have a Daze. Alright, they didn't have the Daze. So we've got a few turns of rebuilding here, but we're only taking one a turn. Our opponent doesn't have much in the way of cards in play. By playing this island, we're better against Wasteland, but we're worse if we're drawing specifically Witherbloom Command, which is a one-of in our deck. Not that we can cast it anyway, but... Okay, a Dreadnought, that's not the one. Let's just play a land, because we will need to get a land. We're going to leave our graveyard popped out, because it's going to be an important zone in the future. So, Murktide Regent is now a live draw for us. We're doing this weird little draw-go thing where our opponent just pecks us for one a turn. But as soon as we find a green source, our hand is really unlocked. A Doubtful Voidwalker. Are we cycling this Veil of Summer for a card? No, because we don't have any green mana. We found the green mana. But the Uro becomes worse in this situation. Tricky. Alright, I think we pass. We're looking for Dress Downs. We're looking for the ability to cycle this Veil of Summer. We can fire off an Uro just if we need 3 life. I'd happily cycle this Veil if our opponent gives us a chance to. Oh no, not another Murktide. It's not going to be a very big one though. Right, let's crack this. I think it's better to cycle this Veil, or is it better to Hedge Maze? They both let us see one card. Maybe it is just a Hedge Maze. Yeah, I maybe should have thought that fully through before cracking it. Brainstorm. So that is a look at 3 new ones. So it's going to be a 3/3. There's that Brainstorm. Let's find a solution to our problems. Doesn't feel very solution-y, does it? We'll throw back 1 Uro. And probably this land. We'll play this. We'll crack this. We're looking for... Like, we're going to need green at some point, but we probably need black for removal spells here. I think we get the Trop here, but we use the Trop to Brainstorm. Come on, deck. This is not the one, is it? 3, 6, 7. We get to see one more card if we Brainstorm, which we have to do, I think. Pick your poison. Okay. That is something. But we've got these bad cards as well. So I guess putting these Dreadnoughts on top for now. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. A Flusterstorm. Okay. You got it, opponent. We are dead. That was a really hard-fought battle with a lot of good back and forth. And I think the problem that we had was that... Well, obviously we couldn't find our green source, which was the problem. But our deck, some of our threats, like we have similar, well, we have a slightly lower threat density than our opponent, but also our threats require a bit more setup. So Uro requires you to have the cards in the graveyard, play it, and then replay it. Murktide obviously needs you to have a graveyard. And then the Dreadnought is just A plus B, and we never found the other half of that really. So we just got a little bit jammed up. But we're 2-2 going into the final round, so let's see if we can put the positive record on the board. Island Ponder is pretty keepable to me, so let's try and find ourselves some Dreadnought action. We're on the play as well, not a terrible place to be. I think I would rather Ponder here than hold up the Stifle. Like, the Stifle is part of our combo right now. Because unlike the white deck, we have less ways of making our Dreadnoughts, so we need to rank them a bit higher for actual Dreadnought activities. Speaking of Dreadnought activities, so next turn, we can't make it. No, we can. We go Bayou and then this, and we back up with Force of Will. And then we have the quick Reflexes underneath that, so I guess we put Force of Will on the bottom. And then the Reflexes, then we just draw this Dreadnought. No, we put the Force of Will and the Reflexes the wrong way around there. That was my bad. Volcanic Island. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Understood. So we could do this around a day, but we could do this around a Daze next turn with double Force of Will backup. Okay, I like the sound of that. Now, they're going to see this Force of Will when they crack this bauble. But they're not going to know we've got Well, I guess we only have one of them because of the blue card in the Stifle, isn't it? But we can play around Daze and have Force of Will next turn. And they're not going to have many answers to a Dreadnought once it's in play. Unless they're playing the Grixis build that has Molten Collapse. Right, Dreadnought, please. Stifle this Dreadnought trigger. Alright, we're just in. So we have Force of Will and Legolas' Quick Reflexes to back this up. Alright, we don't have the Legolas' Quick Reflexes anymore. But we do have a Force of Will. Legolas' Quick Reflexes has been a bit of a stinker, to be honest with you. Polluted Delta. They're going to Brazen Borrow us. They have one in their deck. They could just be getting a Black Source. Okay, yes, they do have the Molten Collapse in their deck. Do they have it right now, though? Or are they going to the second main phase and spewing off a bunch of stuff? They do have the Molten Collapse. We'll let them Surveil first, and then we'll fire off this Force. So if our Force doesn't work, I'd rather have a Brainstorm in hand, so that's what we're going to... They must know we have this Force, though. So I suspect they have a Daze to go alongside this. And we're just seeing the efficiency of playing a similar deck to ours in some respects, but they've just got good cards instead of A plus B cards. And we're just going to get clapped pretty hard, I think. Alright, so now they've also got a Channeler attacking for 3. Alright, Brainstorm. You've got to be a good Brainstorm. Okay, that kind of gets us towards where we want to be. This Legolas' quick Reflexes is rubbish. That can get on here. Hold on. No, we put the Ponder on top, then the Reflexes. Then we play the Sewers and mill the Reflexes. Put into your graveyard. Do I want to Wasteland our opponent, or do I want to use that to play around Daze? I think it's better to play around Daze. Our opponent has so few answers to a Dreadnought in their deck. They have maybe 2 Molten Collapse, possibly 1 Brazen Borrower. Now, I get to see a lot of cards by the nature of being a Dragon's Rage Channeler deck. But we can live with that. The paying cost. Is this going to be a Murktide Regent? It is. How big is this? A 5/5. Okay. It's not as big as a 12/12. Dreadnought time. Stifle time. We'll do it with this. It doesn't really matter which one we use. Alright, I would like to ponder and try and find a Daze or something to keep our creature alive, potentially. Alright, that is the one thing I said I wanted. So... we take 5 this turn. Next turn we take 6 and that kills us. Not ideal. It's a bit of a shame when the best thing you can do is not good enough. Right, so we take 5. We've got a land on top. So we attack with the Dreadnought. They just take 12 and then they crack back and kill us. Yeah. Elementary for our opponent there. Okay, so what is going to be good here? More removal spells. Pick your poison looks great here. Endurance looks great here. Hydroblast is pretty reasonable. Right, it's got some text on it. Narset can be useful if we're going into a control style approach to this one, which I think is probably where we want to be. Legolas' Quick Reflexes is not a good magic card. It's continually underwhelming. I do like being able to life from the Loam and just destroy our opponent's lands. Obviously, that's the thing I enjoy, but I think it is a potentially good thing to do here. Not as big into A plus B stuff when they can mess us up a bit, so we'll get rid of a couple of those. We are bringing in another threat in endurance, so that's fine. We want our Bowmasters. Do we need this Narset? It does shut down our opponent's draws quite handily. Witherbloom Command looks pretty good here too. Maybe we want even less of our Dreadnought plan. And then trim A Ponder. Sort of, we're trying to be the Euro deck really is what we want. That's the most powerful way we can do it. Maybe we could trim on some Force of Wills. But if we're doing the Euro whole thing, then that works alright for us. His hand doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of like attacks our opponent's things and then hopes to draw something. But we do have like half a Ponder in this Hedge Maze. So I'll take the half Ponder. Maybe we can make something happen. We're only a Dreadnought away. Not that I'm convinced Dreadnought is the best thing for us to be doing. Do I want another land? If our opponent hits us with a Wasteland, I think we do want one. We can always Brainstorm some away later, but I'd like to just have the mana underneath us. And when we don't get to cast our green spells, things go bad for us. And I think that no play on turn 1 from our opponent. That is interesting. Alright, I'll snap this Wasteland right off. Alright, we're just in. Our opponent paused for a while, so I don't think they're very happy about that. Their deck sometimes runs 1, maybe 2 Stifles though, so potentially we could have done that in our opponent's upkeep. Right, another land from our opponent. We can play our fetch land so we can go and get a Surveil land. So we've kind of got a whole Ponderer effectively out of 2 Hedge Mazes, or a Hedge Maze and an Undercity Sewer. Alright, our opponent's got some land over there. They could be like the 4-colour build with the Druids. It's a possibility. Let's get the Sewers. Let's get some selection going. Hydroblast. That answers one of their threats. I think that's fine. I will need to find an answer here. We've kind of just said we don't want to lose the Delver stuff, but then they haven't been doing the Delver stuff yet. No threat by the end of turn 3. Maybe they're just really scared of Dreadnoughts. There is that guy. I would like to Pyroblast this guy. And we do it while he's on the stack so they don't get any surveilling type jazz from that. Alright, so we've got a Bowmasters. We don't want to be the first player to play a Bowmasters though. Like, we can use it to ping off a Delver or a DRC and that's fine. Pick your poison is A-OK as well. Just staring at each other. Our opponent's making quite a few land drops. So we're definitely not stifling their fetch lands here. But we could stifle... Alright, so our opponent's played a Bowmasters. Okay, so we could definitely stifle a trigger down the line. Sorry, excuse me, just yawning there. Apologies. So, yeah, we could stifle a creature trigger like a Bowmaster. I think we wait to see what our opponent's second main phase brings. I'm happy to take a little bit of damage. A Ponder. Okay, so now we'll fire this Bowmasters off. A Brainstorm. I don't really want this Brainstorm to resolve. But I think if we let it resolve, our Daze gets a bit more likely to do something. Right, so we'll take out their Bowmasters here. And then we'll take out their Orc army in a sec. Right, so they're cracking 1 fetch land. I think that's okay. We can Daze bouncing an Undercity Sewers here. So they might wait for us to put the ping from our Bowmasters on their Bowmasters. And then they might try to get to play their Bowmasters. If they have another one. Right, we didn't have to fight at all. Interesting. Alright, I guess we're on the can we win the game with Orcish Bowmasters now train. It's 3 power, you know, that's a Delver's worth of damage a turn. We've got some counter spells. We've got Pick Your Poison, so we don't care too much about Murktide unless they can play Murktide and then Wasteland us. Lightning Bolt. I don't really want to lose our creature here. Now, this is trapping our opponent underneath it, so I'm a big fan of keeping it around. Even if that was a 1-mana 2-for-1 for our opponent. Because that might put them in a horrible spot where they have to cantrip into our Bowmasters. And then if we can get our Orc army above 3, it's going to be really hard for them to remove because their removal is going to be like red removal. Unless they want to spend a Molten Collapse on that, but then that's a Molten Collapse they don't get to use on one of our real threats. To play a Murktide, we just let it go. And then untap and pick a poison. A Ponder. Yeah, so our opponent has to cantrip into this. To the face. Right, so now we have 4 power in play. Wasteland, is that what I'm about right now? We can cut our opponent off with red. But that will cost us our Force of Will because we'd have to stifle the fetch land. So I'm not really about that. I think I'd rather just have a bunch of mana up so I can hard cast Murderous Cut, or almost hard cast it if I need to. And keep more cards in our graveyard for Murktides and stuff. Yeah, so lands isn't the problem for our opponent. Just going to be a Murktide by the feel of things. We just let that happen. And then we can Edict out of play in the end step. If that doesn't work, we can untap and pick a poison it. So flashing a Bowmasters here. Maybe that's where we pick a fight with a Force. Bashing continues. 4 of your finest damages, please, Orcs. So if they crack both their fetches, it can lead them dead to another Bowmasters. Well, even one fetch can lead them dead to another Bowmasters. Because it'll pump our existing one. A Molten Collapse. Is this where I fight? I don't believe it is. I think having the Bowmaster in play is better than having a 3-3. It's going to take a lot longer for us to kill our opponent. But I can live with that. Alright, so dress down's not looking great with our Bowmasters, but it is what it is. So we're pretty close to hard casting Force of Wills now. I don't think we're wastelanding our opponent yet. Just going to keep taking 1. Alright, so now we can hardcast Force of Will. But if we want to hold up our other interaction, we need to pitch cast it. So our opponent's on 5. Don't think we're taking out this Volcanic Island yet. Right, let's crack in with our Bowmasters. Once again. We've just got Brainstorm that we can fire for our opponent's end step if we don't have to crack our thing. I don't think we're stifling this. Opponent's on 3. We only have 1 Bowmasters left in our deck because we're only running 2. Alright, so we're going to see a Murktide here. 6 cards in our opponent's hand is quite a lot of cards, isn't it? I don't want to play this Dress Down because it can mess with things. I will cast a Brainstorm. If our opponent has a Bowmasters, we can cut it and force it. Alright. These cards are not really appealing to me. I don't particularly want this Dress Down. Having 1 to pitch is probably okay. But I think we're just going to crack and draw another one in a sec. We've got the pick your poison for this guy. We don't have any more Surveil lands, but we can crack this one and go and get ourselves a Trop. So we've got green, green, blue, blue. We drew it anyway. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. Like to lose your Murktide opponent. I doubt they will. That's not something you would like to happen. It was a bit loose there. If we'd have played the land first. We can force to try and secure this if we have to. And we tap the Hedge Maze, so if we need to Daze for something, we at least get our Surveil land for a little bit of extra value back. Alright, our opponent's had enough. So now we go back to the sideboard. So Dazes look a little bit less interesting to me. So let's bring in a couple of Dreadnoughts. Up our Dreadnought counts, we've got a way of just turning the corner and winning the game. Alright, this hand is a bit slow. We've got some interaction, we've got a lot of lands underneath us, and we've got a threat that actually interacts favourably with what they're doing. I will keep this one. Obviously we can go and get our Surveil lands, and they're pretty handy. Snuff Out is hopefully going to be quite effective here. A Ponder, that's what we want to see. I don't want to get jammed up by a threat on turn 1. I think the slower game favours us, because our deck goes a bit bigger than them with Uros and stuff. That doesn't mean they can't just turn the corner and beat us senseless with a Murktide at some point. Alright, Misty Rainforest. I don't really care if our opponent tries to stifle us because we've got 3 other lands in hand. So I'm not going to try and play around a stifle here. That our opponent may not even have. So they might try and cast a spell in response so we can't Daze. Let's get this Hedge Maze. Hydroblast. Sure. That card is reasonable. Let's go. I don't think we're burning a Dress Down on something like an Orcish Bowmasters given the fact that we've got 4 Dreadnoughts in our deck. Alright, so there's a Wasteland. Interesting. We get Wasteland in response here? We're not. Okay, does that mean we're supposed to get the Sewers or not? I kind of want to get a Trop here just to make sure that we're not getting caught off guard. I don't want our opponent to Wasteland us off of this Endurance. Another Trop, you say? I get this Misty. And pass. Right, I think we're going to see an Orcish Bowmasters here. We might try and catch it in combat with an Endurance this turn. Opponent's holding up red mana, possibly for a Pyroblast. Something we have to be aware of here. So we can try this Endurance to catch them in combat. That plays into Daze. We haven't seen any Daze from our opponent because we haven't done anything yet. But I think this is our time to do stuff. So we're going to go and get ourselves an Underground Sea here. And we're going to cast this. And if we fight over anything, we can Daze this Endurance. Okay. What's going on here? They're dazing us. So the question here is, would I rather keep this tropical island around or not? I think probably I can live without that tropical island because we have another one in hand. And what if we need to save something else? All right, so played that volcanic again. What are we going to see here? Anything? Nothing? Just a crack for 2? Sure. We will need to find some kind of threat soon. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? So if we play out this island, we can Dress Down in the end step, and that unlocks our Ponder to try and find something else on our turn. Polluted Delta from our opponent. It's going to bash us for a healthy 2 damage. Right, let's do the Dress Down. Holding up what could be a Veil. Make our opponent think about it. A Pyroblast. How interested am I in having this resolve? Alright, I'm going to go for this Hydroblast. Daze can obviously get us here. But I really want to resolve this Ponder without getting pinged. It's going to hardcast a Daze here. If they do, then we can bounce this Hedge Maze. I just have another one. Alright. No dressing down allowed. Wow, that would have been real good. So I think we are supposed to ponder into what our opponent has here. Dreadnought, okay, in any order. This is not doing it for us. Alright, so we have the dress down here. Let's cast this dress down. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. We're doing this now while our opponent can't have a Pyroblast. Right, we also have a Force now. Big Daddy Dreadnoughts in the house. We have this terrible Snuff Out in our hand, though. It's just been rubbish. Where are your Delvers and Murktides and all that jazz? A Channeler. I don't think we are counterspelling that. So we're not getting attacked this turn. We're just trying to preserve our Dreadnought. Alright. So now we have Force of Will plus Daze. I don't think Daze is going to do anything in this game. Probably just going to picture the Force of Will. But our opponent's got 1 turn to do something before they get crunched by the big Dreadnought from yesteryear. Oh, what are you doing? Bowmasters. I guess we are getting some value out of our Daze here. Alright. So we still have Force of Will around Daze. Alright, we managed to string together the victory there. So that ended in a 3-2 league, which is, you know, fine. I think this deck has some flaws to it. So why don't we just go on in and discuss those flaws. So I think there's 2 elements of... I'm going to say flaws. One of them is not so much a flaw, it's a choice. So the first one is we are a Phyrexian Dreadnought deck, right? And the ceiling of what Dreadnought can do is incredibly high. It's just a massive guy, just beats through. It's going to destroy pretty much everything in combat outside of like a Marit Lage. So it's going to be a good time for you. But it is an A plus B card. We need to have a Dress Down or a Stifle. And Stifle Dreadnought is 2 cards to make that guy. And so you're playing an A plus B where you need to have the A and the B at the same time. It's not like you can just play one piece at one time and it does stuff. So like the white version has a Doorkeeper Thrall, which is really good because it's a guy. You know, you can put it into play. It can do a little bit of attacking. It's just a thing that exists. It's an object that you get to retain. Whereas Stifle, if you spend your Stifle on Dreadnought and they answer a Dreadnought, that's it, you're out of card. Dress Down, obviously brilliant with Dreadnought because you get the card back, which is why I like Doorkeeper Thrall, because you kind of get the card back, but the card you get back is a 1-2 that will impact your opponent's board as well. So by making the choice of playing a Dreadnought deck, we are making the floor of some of our draws a little bit low in some instances because, you know, we do need to string together pieces and we can struggle. And by making the choice of going Bug, we are losing the Doorkeeper Thrall, which really impressed me when I played it, and I thought it was an excellent addition, and it just made the deck feel really sweet. And don't worry, I will be playing some more Stiflenought at some point in the future. But I think the white build kind of gets to use Stifle as an interactive piece a lot more. So whenever we use Stifle as an interactive piece, we are risking having dead Dreadnoughts that just didn't do anything in our hand. Whereas the white build has 8 cards to enable your Dreadnought, as well as 4 Stifles, which can enable your Dreadnought, but then you get to use them more to deny your opponent's resources, or, you know, pitch them to Force of Wills without ruining your combo or whatever. So that works a lot better. The other thing, when I played a version of the Bant build that only had 2 Uros, it didn't feel enough because where we were running the Doorkeeper Thrall, it meant that we wanted lots of things to put in, right? So I think the best build of the Bant Stiflenought I've seen runs 4 Uro, 4 Dreadnought. Now, obviously, we're not the same deck. We don't have all the enablers. But Uro is just a good magic card on its own. And it sometimes felt like we were struggling for threats a little bit. So I could see an argument for running a 3rd Uro in a deck like this. Obviously, there is one card that we have to mention here, and that is Legolas's Quick Reflexes, which basically did nothing this whole league. We kept boarding it out. It didn't really get there. And, you know, I play Turbodepths, which is arguably like the deck that you would expect to see this card see play in. And it's fine as a sideboard card in some matchups. So having it in main deck in a deck like this just feels a little bit awkward. I think the best place to run Legolas's Quick Reflexes is probably actually green-white depths, because the untap when you've got things like Knight of the Reliquary become really good and just give you additional tutors in a turn, as well as being able to protect your Merit Lage or whatever. And even then, I don't think it's great. I think it's playable. So I'm not really sure it's playable here. Obviously, we do need to get through with our Dreadnought, but it just doesn't feel enough. I feel you could get something like a Not of This World if there's an effect you really, really want just for Dreadnought. But, you know, you can protect some of your other guys. But it's just a card we're boarding out almost all the time, or our mana's going to be a bit awkward around it. It just didn't feel great. Also, we're playing Uro, which means we need blue, blue, green, green. And we only have 4 green sources. So Wastelands can certainly take us off of it, especially if we fetch this island to keep ourselves a little bit safer. We can make it taken off of Uro. So there are some deck building costs. I think in terms of, you know, we're paying some deck building costs here. You know, we're playing a Stiflenought deck. And we're playing Uros in a 3-color build. So we are having some concessions to what our deck can do. What that means is that we can't afford to get cute with our slots, right? We're accepting that we're playing something that's A plus B, but we kind of can't play a lot of cute cards. So these quick reflexes are just too cute. So the Life from the Loam didn't really come up as a thing I wanted to do that much. Also, we're a 19 land deck that's trying to put Uros into play. Maybe that is not enough. And 3 of those are Wastelands, right? So we've got 16 cards that can get us towards mana for Uro. And, sorry, I was saying earlier, when I said the island doesn't cast the Uro, I mean the Wastelands don't cast the Uro. So we have a little bit of tension here. If we're trying to cast this for 4 mana, it might be difficult. So I can see maybe adding some more land. And do we need to be a Life from the Loam deck? Do we need to be a Witherbloom Command deck? Is this the right selection of removal? This is basically the questionable pile of what you want to do. So you could definitely swap out some of these for, like these 2 quick reflexes. If these were 2 Orcish Bowmasters, the deck automatically becomes better. Which, you know, you don't really need me to tell you that. You know, strong card in the format is strong, right? But if these are just Bowmasters, I think our deck automatically gets considerably stronger. And then I don't feel so bad about having this sort of stuff, but we're a little bit shy on removal. So if you just turn this Life from the Loam into another Witherbloom Command, then we've kind of got like a rebuy effect for some lands that can do enough. Because sometimes you only need to rebuy a land once, and that's, you know, that's all right. But then this also gives us more ability to mill ourselves, so we can turn on our Uro and our Murktide Regent quicker, as well as being a little bit of removal for an Orcish Bowmaster itself. So I think that's probably the change I would make. I also don't like Snuff Out right now. Sometimes it does work, don't get me wrong, but when you have it in a crucial matchup and it's just like, oh, I don't get to kill your things, that's awkward. Especially when like blue-black scam is going to be everywhere right now. I think Snuff Out is a questionable one. We could run something weird, like Drown in the Lock if we're in these colours. Or we could just run, you know, more Sheoldred's Edicts. We could run that new card, that's just come out in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, that's like 2 mana. You can discard it to pay 2 mana, discard it to -2/-2 something. And it's got Menace, and it's a 5/4, but I don't think we want to be putting cards in our graveyard for other people to reanimate. That's probably not one for us. But, you know, there's a whole bunch of removal spells we can run. Assassin's Trophy is probably fine here as well. It goes kind of against the Wasteland line, but the Wastelands are more... When we're running 3 Wastelands in a deck like this, and our Stifles need to be playing our Dreadnoughts, rather than disrupting our opponent, I think the Wastelands are more for specific things. You know, your Maze of Ith, your Caracas that's stopping your Uro from hitting, or your opposing as a Saga that can kind of outscale you a little bit. So I think we could get away with an Assassin's Trophy instead of a Snuff Out here. And just gives us a little bit more flexibility against other random opponents too. But, you know, overall this deck was fine. I don't think I was impressed with it, but I think it did a little bit better than I thought it would looking at it on paper, because, you know, we're running good cards, but we're also running this package of 12 here, which is a lot, and we had a couple of reflexes to sort of get in our way. So this is kind of what, like, Dress Down on its own is just a good card anyway, I suppose. So it's not the most amount of cards. That's still like a block of 10. That's a sixth of our deck that is, you know, kind of questionable cards. And then we've got some cards that are very situational, like Snuff Out and Sheoldred's Edict, same with Life from the Loam, and Witherbloom Command to a lesser extent because it's got more modality to it. But yeah, so there's a few issues with this deck, not just the fact that it's a Dreadnought deck and it has inherent weaknesses, but I quite enjoy Dreadnought decks, but I am fully aware that they have some rather significant limitations where people playing just good cards can break up your A plus B and then they smash you to pieces. I think the Bant build is definitely where I would go instead of this. And I'm not sure if there's any new cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction that go into the Stiflenought decks, but we're just going to have a look at that in coming weeks and see if we can find anything. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this one, bringing you that sweet, sweet 12-12 trample action. And we did get to crunch nicely with one in the final game in wonderful fashion. All right, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. My analytics tells me that about 2/5 of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. So if you're one of those people, why not just hit that subscribe button? It does boost me in algorithms and really helps me out and grow the channel. And, you know, I appreciate it, and it means you don't miss any of my content. All right. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.